You can't keep avoiding this conversation, David. We need to decide what happens next.
I know, but running away won't solve anything either. We have to face them.
I still remember the sound of the glass breaking downstairs. That's the first thing. Not the rain outside. Not the late hour. Not even her voice. Just that sharp crack in the middle of the night that made me sit up in bed thinking someone had broken into the apartment. And honestly, maybe that would have been easier to explain. My name's Ethan. I'm 26. This happened 2 years ago when I was living in a cheap apartment complex outside Phoenix, Arizona. I worked customer support for a software company. Remote job. Long hours. Too much coffee. The kind of work where you spend your whole day talking to people but still somehow feel alone when your laptop closes. Back then, I lived with my best friend Marcus. We'd known each other since high school. Same football team. Same terrible grades sophomore year. Same habit of staying up too late talking about life like we had anything figured out. Marcus was one of those people who could make friends anywhere. Gas stations. Waiting rooms. Elevators. Didn't matter. Meanwhile, I could barely order food without rehearsing it in my head first. We balanced each other out. At least that's what he always said. We rented a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor of an older building that always smelled faintly like bleach and cigarette smoke. The walls were thin. The pipes screamed every morning. And the air conditioner sounded like it was fighting for its life every summer. But it was cheap. And honestly, we were happy there. Or at least comfortable. Every Tuesday morning, a cleaning lady came by the building. Not just our unit. The whole floor. Hallways. Laundry room. Empty apartments after tenants moved out. Stuff like that. Her name was Elena. I didn't know much about her at first. She looked maybe early 40s. Quiet. Always wore the same gray hoodie tied around her waist no matter how hot it got outside. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No jewelry except a thin gold ring she twisted around her finger when she thought nobody was watching. The first real conversation we ever had lasted maybe 10 seconds. I was leaving for the grocery store when she looked up from mopping the hallway and said, "Careful. Floor's wet." That was it. But over time, little things started standing out. She always hummed softly while she worked. Old songs I didn't recognize. Sometimes Spanish. Sometimes not. She drank coffee from the same faded blue thermos every morning. And whenever Marcus joked around with her, she'd smile politely, but never fully relax. Like part of her mind was always somewhere else. Marcus called her the ghost. Not in a mean way. Just because she moved quietly. You'd look down at your phone for 2 seconds and suddenly she'd appear at the end of the hallway carrying towels or cleaning supplies without making a sound. One night Marcus asked me, "You ever notice she never talks about herself?" I shrugged. "I barely know her." "Exactly," he said. "We've lived here 8 months." I remember laughing about it. But later that night, I realized he was right. We knew nothing about her. Not where she lived. Not if she had family. Nothing. And somehow, that made me curious. Not attracted. Not yet. Just curious. There's a difference. At least I think there is. Life stayed normal for a while. Marcus worked construction during the day. I worked from home. We watched basketball at night. Ordered cheap takeout. Argued over whose turn it was to buy toilet paper. Just normal roommate stuff. And every Tuesday morning, Elena showed up quietly with her cart and headphones around her neck. Sometimes she'd nod at me. Sometimes not. Then one evening, everything changed because of something stupid. A power outage. That's all it was. A monsoon storm rolled through Phoenix late one night. Rain hammered the windows. Wind shook the building. Around midnight the entire block lost power. No lights. No Wi-Fi. No air conditioning. Just darkness and the sound of rain hitting metal railings outside. Marcus was staying overnight at his girlfriend's place. So it was just me. I remember standing by the kitchen window looking outside when I heard it. Glass breaking downstairs. Then silence. I froze. For a second I honestly thought someone had broken into the building. Then I heard another sound. A quiet curse. A woman's voice. I grabbed my phone flashlight and stepped into the hallway. The emergency lights barely worked. Everything looked dim and gray. That's when I saw Elena downstairs near the lobby entrance. One of the glass cleaning bottles had shattered across the floor. She was kneeling in the dark trying to clean it up with paper towels. Rainwater had blown through the open door. The whole lobby floor looked slick. "You okay?" I asked. She looked up fast. Almost startled. "Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You're cleaning right now?" The manager wanted the downstairs done before morning. I remember looking outside at the storm. "At midnight?" She gave a tired little shrug. "Work is work." I don't know why that bothered me. Maybe because she looked exhausted. Maybe because nobody should have been working alone that late during a storm. I stepped downstairs. You shouldn't clean broken glass in the dark. I'll finish fast. You'll cut yourself. She smiled faintly. Probably. I don't know why, but that answer stuck with me. Probably. Like getting hurt was just another normal thing to expect. I grabbed a broom from the closet nearby and helped her clean up. At first it was awkward. Mostly silence. Rain outside. The buzzing emergency lights overhead. Then after a while she said quietly, "You don't have to help." "I know." Another silence. Then she laughed softly. Not a big laugh. Just surprised. Like she wasn't used to people staying anyway. We cleaned for almost an hour. The storm kept getting worse. At some point the rain started leaking through part of the ceiling near the laundry room. She sighed when she saw it. Perfect. I grabbed towels while she found a bucket. And somehow, without really meaning to, we started talking. Real talking. Not hallway small talk. Actual conversation. She told me she moved to Arizona from Nevada after her divorce. Said it casually. Like mentioning the weather. I didn't ask questions. But later she admitted she had a son living with her sister in another state because she couldn't afford childcare while working nights. That part hit me harder than I expected. Maybe because she said it without self-pity. Just tired honesty. Like she'd already accepted that life was unfair. At one point we sat on the hallway floor near the laundry room waiting for the storm to calm down. No lights except my phone flashlight sitting face up beside us. And for the first time, she looked relaxed. Not fully. But close. "You and Marcus are good roommates," she said. I laughed. "He leaves dishes everywhere." "Still," she said. "You both say thank you." I remember staring at her after that. Because something about it felt sad. Like basic kindness had become unusual to her. Outside, thunder shook the windows. And for a second neither of us said anything. Then she looked at me and asked quietly, "You ever feel like your life became something different than what you pictured?" The question caught me off guard. I mean, who asks that at 1 in the morning during a blackout? But the weird part is, I answered honestly. "Yeah," I said. "All the time." She nodded slowly like she understood more than I said out loud. And after that night, things changed. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just little things. Small shifts. The kind you barely notice at first. She started stopping by our apartment longer on Tuesdays. Marcus flirted with everyone naturally, so he joked around with her constantly. But with me, conversations became quieter. More personal. She'd ask how work was going. I'd ask if her son was doing okay in school. Sometimes I'd make coffee while she cleaned. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing obvious. But there was this comfort growing between us. And honestly, that scared me a little. Because she wasn't just the maid anymore. She became Elena. A real person. Someone I started noticing in strange ways. The way she rubbed her eyes when she was tired. The way she stood silently by windows during phone calls. The way she always said sorry before asking for anything. Like apologizing had become automatic. One afternoon Marcus noticed it before I did. We were eating tacos in the living room when he smirked at me. "You got a crush on Elena?" I almost choked. "What? No. Dude. I'm serious." He laughed. "You look at her weird." "I do not." "You absolutely do." I remember getting defensive fast. Mostly because part of me wondered if he was right. "She's just nice," I said. Marcus shrugged. Didn't say it was bad. But after that conversation, I started overthinking everything. Every interaction felt loaded. Every silence felt dangerous. And the age difference didn't help. Neither did the fact she worked in our building. Or that people talk. People always talk. So I started pulling back a little. Keeping conversations shorter. Staying in my room more on cleaning days. I thought distance would fix whatever weird emotional thing was happening. It didn't. If anything, it made it worse. Because now I noticed when she seemed disappointed. And that feeling stayed with me longer than it should have. Then came the night everything crossed a line. Not a physical line. Not really. But emotionally? Yeah. Definitely. Marcus was out again. Friday night this time. I was working late when someone knocked softly on our apartment door around 10. I opened it expecting food delivery or maybe a neighbor. Instead, Elena stood there holding a folded piece of paper. She looked nervous. "I'm sorry to bother you." "What happened?" "My car won't start." Rain had started outside again. Not a storm. Just steady rain. "The battery died," she said. I tried calling someone but... She trailed off. I already knew what she meant. Nobody answered. I grabbed my hoodie. "Let's take a look." The parking lot smelled like wet asphalt. Her car was old. Older than mine by at least 15 years. We tried jumping it with my cables. Nothing. Tried again. Still dead. She looked exhausted standing there under the parking lot lights. You should just go inside, she said. I'll figure it out. You can't stay out here all night. I've done worse. Again. That casual sadness in her voice. Like struggling had become normal. Eventually I drove her home. Small apartment across town. Nothing fancy. Dim kitchen light. Kids' drawings taped to the fridge. A silence hanging in the air that felt heavier than the rain outside. When we walked in, she looked embarrassed. Sorry, it's messy. It wasn't messy. It just looked lived in. Lonely, maybe. She made tea while we waited for roadside assistance. And that was the first time I saw her outside work. Not Elena the cleaner. Just Elena. Barefoot in her own kitchen. Hair loose. Quiet music playing softly from an old speaker near the sink. At one point she asked, "Do you ever get tired of pretending you're okay all the time?" I laughed a little. Is it that obvious? To people who do it too, she said. That line stayed in my head for weeks. Maybe longer. We talked for hours that night. About nothing important. Movies. Bad jobs. Family stuff. The weird fear of getting older without becoming the person you thought you'd be. And somewhere during those conversations, I realized something dangerous. I felt calmer around her than almost anyone else. That shouldn't have happened. But it did. Around 1 in the morning, the roadside guy finally called saying he'd arrive soon. I stood up to leave. And something shifted. I still can't explain it correctly. It was just quiet. Too quiet. She walked me to the door. Rain tapping softly against the windows. Both of us standing there like we wanted to say something but didn't know how. Then she said very softly, "Thank you for helping me." Of course. No, she said. I mean, really. The way she looked at me after that made my chest tighten. Not because it was seductive. It wasn't. It was worse. It was honest. And honesty can wreck you faster than anything else. For a second neither of us moved. Then she stepped closer. Barely. I remember her hand brushing against mine accidentally. Or maybe not accidentally. I honestly don't know. And then she kissed me. Just once. Small. Hesitant. Like she regretted it halfway through. The second it happened, we both pulled back. Neither of us spoke. I could actually hear the refrigerator humming behind us. That's how quiet it got. "I'm sorry," she whispered immediately. But I wasn't even thinking clearly enough to answer. Because part of me had wanted it. And realizing that made me panic. I left right after that. Drove home in complete silence. No music. No podcast. Nothing. Just my thoughts getting louder every mile. I barely slept. The next Tuesday, she didn't come to work. Different cleaner showed up instead. Then another week passed. Still nothing. I kept checking the hallway every morning without meaning to. Marcus eventually noticed. "You good?" "Yeah. You seem weird lately." "I'm fine." But I wasn't. Because I couldn't stop replaying that moment at her apartment. Not the kiss itself. The feeling after. The guilt. The confusion. The loneliness in her eyes before it happened. It didn't feel romantic. It felt like two tired people crossing a line because they didn't know where else to put their emotions. And somehow that made it harder to process. 3 weeks later she finally came back. I saw her downstairs cleaning near the lobby. For a second I considered walking away. Pretending I hadn't seen her. But then she looked up. And I realized she looked just as nervous as I felt. "Hey," I said quietly. "Hey." That was it at first. Just awkward silence. Then she said, "I transferred to another building for a while." "Oh. I thought maybe it was better." I nodded slowly. "Was it?" She looked down at the mop in her hands. "No." That answer hit harder than it should have. For the next few weeks we tried acting normal. And honestly, sometimes we succeeded. Sometimes we'd talk like nothing happened. Other times there'd be these long silences between sentences. Unfinished thoughts hanging in the air. Marcus never knew. At least I don't think he did. But I started noticing how close we always stood now. How careful we became around each other. Like one wrong word could restart something neither of us fully understood. Then came the close call. The moment that finally forced reality back into the room. It happened late one afternoon. Marcus got home early from work unexpectedly. I was downstairs in the laundry room helping Elena move supplies because one of the storage shelves collapsed. Nothing inappropriate. Just talking. Laughing a little. For the first time in weeks things actually felt light again. Then Marcus walked in. And froze. Not because we were doing anything wrong. But because of the way we looked at each other when he entered. People notice those things. Even when nothing's happening. Especially when nothing's happening. Marcus glanced between us. "You guys good?" Yeah, I answered too quickly. Elena stepped back immediately. Just cleaning. Marcus nodded slowly. But the energy shifted instantly. After she left, he sat beside me outside near the stairs. Didn't say anything for a while. Then finally, "You know that situation could get messy, right?" I stared ahead. "There is no situation." "Okay," he said quietly. "But if there was, just be careful." That conversation messed with me for days. Because hearing it out loud made everything feel real. Not emotional fog. Not loneliness. Real consequences. And deep down, I think Elena knew it too. A few nights later she texted me for the first time. I hadn't even realized she had my number from the car incident. The message just said, "I think we should stop talking outside work." I read it maybe 20 times. Then finally replied, "Yeah, probably. That should have been the end." Honestly, maybe it should have happened sooner. But life's weird. Feelings don't disappear just because you decide they're inconvenient. For a while we became strangers again. Polite. Distant. Careful. She cleaned. I worked. Marcus stayed clueless. Or pretended to. Then one morning I walked downstairs before work and saw a moving truck outside the building. Elena stood near the curb loading boxes into the back. I stopped immediately. "You're leaving?" She looked surprised to see me. "The manager found me a better position closer to my sister." "When?" "Today." Something twisted in my chest hearing that. Not dramatic heartbreak. Just loss. Quiet loss. Like realizing a chapter ended before you were ready. I helped carry a few boxes without either of us mentioning the obvious. The whole time it felt strange. Too normal. Like we were pretending this was casual when it absolutely wasn't. Finally there was only one box left. Books. Old family photos. Random stuff. She closed the truck door slowly. Then looked at me. And I swear I still remember exactly how tired her smile looked. "You were kind to me," she said softly. I didn't know what to say back. Because kindness suddenly felt way too small for everything I was feeling. So instead I asked, "Are you happy?" She thought about it for a long moment. Then gave the most honest answer possible. "I think I'm trying to be." And somehow that hurt more than if she'd said no. Before getting into the truck, she stepped closer to me one last time. Not enough to touch. Just close enough that I could smell coffee on her sweater. "You should call your mom more," she said. I laughed in confusion. "What? You always talk about missing her," she said. "But you never call." I smiled a little. "That's your final advice?" "Yeah." Then after a pause. "And stop acting like you have to carry everything alone." I couldn't answer after that. Because she was right. About all of it. She climbed into the truck. Closed the door. And that was the last time I saw her. No dramatic goodbye. No final kiss. Nothing cinematic. Just a truck pulling away from an old apartment building while I stood there holding a roll of packing tape she accidentally left behind. Marcus came downstairs a few minutes later. "She move out?" "Yeah." He looked at me for a second. Then nodded slowly like he understood more than I wanted him to. "You okay?" I watched the truck disappear around the corner. And honestly, I didn't know. For a long time after that, I kept expecting to see her. Every Tuesday morning especially. I'd hear cleaning carts in the hallway and look up automatically. Sometimes loneliness trains your brain into habits you can't explain. A few months later Marcus moved in with his girlfriend. I got my own place eventually. Better apartment. Better pay. Different routine. Life moved forward like it always does. But every now and then, usually late at night, I still think about that storm. That broken glass downstairs. That weird quiet connection between two people who were both pretending to be fine. And I think the reason it stayed with me isn't because we almost had a relationship. It's because for a short period of time, we saw each other clearly. No pretending. No performance. Just honesty. And honestly, that can change you more than love sometimes. I never saw Elena again. I don't know where she ended up. I don't know if she ever got her son back full time. I don't know if she's happier now. I hope she is. But every once in a while, when it rains late at night, I still hear that glass breaking in my head. And for a second, I'm back in that dark hallway again. Helping someone I barely knew. Right before everything changed.